Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 463. If timed correctly on this whole process of what's going on next week, is going to be a very active day for all of our active week for all of us, with both high tech and HSMEI running full steam at the conferences in Charlotte. I am not going to go next week. I'm still here in Europe, specifically the Netherlands, just outside of Amsterdam. And I have a ton of friends and professional associates and everything else that are going to be there. So we're going to have some interesting dialogue with them, as well as feedback from them, insights from them. And then next week's show is going to be a lot about feedback as to what was presented through the course of the week, as we all begin to digest what was presented at that time and anything that stood out for anybody that they noticed during the floor walk in high tech or anything that was displayed at HSMAI. As some of the things that might be going on. To that end, I wanted to preemptively talk about something that I don't think gets talked about enough, and I don't really at this moment, prior to next week's events, don't know if there's going to be a lot of help on this front. Ways, content, social services, offerings, conversations about what I picked as a topic for today. My topic today is, as always, based on real world of what we do with our clients and so forth, is Compset awareness is more than rate checks. In often my dialogue, both with current clients, people in our hospitality marketing club, our peer group that we talk about, we're all hospitality marketing professionals. We go dialogue back and so forth, and also prospective clients and past clients that still know that we're a resource for them, that they're always welcome to call us back and, which way's up, which one's good, which one's bad, always keep relationships going. What I find a lot of times is when we go to diagnose, not audit's still a little bit more of an affirmative action, one-sided thing, but when we try to diagnose what's going on, what we often find is a dark spot in the conversation is the awareness of what the competitive set is doing. Most of the times when you're dealing with revenue management and marketing and operations and sales, all collaboratively talking through this process, which by the way is a lot rarer than you would think, they all come from their unique perspective. Revenue management will always talk about rate parities and rate penetration and occupancy penetration and RevPAR and their tier placement against their comp set and who's the market leader if they're not the market leader as to how they're pacing rates. Really good revenue managers will talk about the fences and the gates they create, close to arrivals, close to departures, length of stay requirements, optimizing inventory types. Those conversations usually come from the revenue management side. From the sales side comes from the idea that they have to look much farther down the road into who they're collaborating with. Group doesn't happen overnight. You don't have somebody calling and say, I need a room, 20 rooms tomorrow kind of mentality. Not that it doesn't, but it's really rare. A lot of sales practicalities is pace and trend as to leads, what's in the pipeline, how cold, warm, hot when it comes to progressions of dialogues with contracts. Obviously, you have your RFPs and your consortias and your wholesalers already kind of locked in. Revenue management, usually between them and sales, will discuss about pace of consumption for those. Those things come up. Operations, of course, is talking about yieldability of cost in comparison to occupancies, cash flow. You get the idea. Marketing, however, usually talks about active, consistently generated things that they're doing. Their ad campaigns, their ad campaign productions, their ROAS. Hopefully they have common KPI goals with their other team members that they're actually talking about top line revenues and or occupancy numbers or whatever the driver of traffic numbers or whatever it is. That is the KPI that everybody is marching to. Not always, but let's hope that people are well organized enough to be doing that. But they do very little to talk about competitors. We notice a lot of times, again, this dark hole comes from, so in market, from what revenue management is talking about, what are those companies doing? How are they doing things differently than us? Are we doing things better or worse than them? How do we compare against them? Now, we're all familiar with the old SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, that we historically used to do. Surprisingly, fewer and fewer hotels are actually part of their their annual budgeting process, go through this process. But let's say that you're old school or progressively good, and you're doing your SWOT analysis as well. It's a relatively static slice of time look. You SWOT analysis usually true original SWOT analysis is where capacity comparisons. You know, how many rooms compared to how many rooms, how many room types compared to how many room types, what's their meeting space compared to our meeting space, what's the flexibility of their meeting space compared to the flexibility of our meeting space. What is their common area spaces? What are their strengths of draw? Like, you know, they're closer to the airport than we are. Or they're closer to the downtown events than we are. They have shuttle service. We don't have shuttle service. Whatever those comparisons are is part of what the SWOT analysis is. Your strengths are things that you have they don't. Weaknesses are those things that they have that you don't. Opportunities are the things that they're not doing that you should be doing, that you can do for yourself. Threats are the things that they can do better than you. Again, I don't mean to quick old school you, but that's a SWOT analysis. That's usually the extent of Compset analysis that gets done from a marketing perspective. Slice of life. Well, we know about them this way. Contextually, this many rooms, this inventory type, this common space, this booking pace, so forth. Sales, of course, will be much more fluid in knowing whether or not they get a particular contract versus them. If they did better in citywides or anything than you did, they'll know a little bit more about them. They may even know the personalities of the sales teams that are over there compared to your sales teams as to how good and how strong they are. Their soft spots, they don't have a new caterer, or a new caterer is not really good yet. Or their room salesperson is dynamite and we're always bumping into them when we're out there. They're aggressive, they're good on calls, whatever. They'll have a good sense of their sales team, but marketing seems to miss that point. Marketing tends to look at static information and focuses on current efforts. They don't do a lot. Very rarely do we find any vendor in relationship with an organization that is persistently maintaining a wary eye or over the shoulder look at whom they're competing with. Now, as we've talked about over the years of this show, and yes, we're in our 10th year and every week. And by the way, thank you so much for everyone that's watching us on TV, our hospitality channel TV station, which is on your Apple TV, Google TV, Amazon TV, you know, Kindle Fire and all that stuff. Kindle, but Fire. What am I missing? Roku, LG, any smartphone TV will actually have our show. It's always free on that. There's a paid gateway for more content, which you'll find a lot more high-tech content on it next week. And also it's an app. You can go on Apple iOS or Google Play, download the app for Hospitality Channel. And of course, our simulcast on everything on Facebook, on a tremendous amount of our associations and corporate relationships and so forth. We're not sponsored or anything, but a lot of companies know that we have great content, so they openly publish our live show on their pages and on their TV, their YouTube channels. And we're also on Twitch. We're on LinkedIn. We're on X. We're everywhere we possibly can be to make sure that we're always available to anybody that is interested in the content about what we're talking about. So meanwhile, back to all that. So marketing tends to not look at what other marketers are doing that they're competing with. And like I said, over the show for the 10 years we've been doing this before on this promotional thing about the show, is Compset isn't just about who's across the street in your market. Compset a lot of times is about who else you're competing against. That's called a symbiotic market that is similar in demographic draw. Like, for instance, and I use this example persistently, since we had so much we were doing with Key West over the years. Key West always competed with Aspen, Colorado. And you may think that seems really bizarre. They're not in proximity, okay? They're different DMAs, isolated DMAs, which makes them unique. But it's the demographics. Who's going to enjoy which? Do they want a mountain adventure, vacation, transient travel? Or do they want a beach, Caribbean, easy to get to travel? That demographics are shared. So the commonality of advertising is to the same people. The message, of course, is dramatically different, but they're looking for the same heads and beds. So there's the symbiotic markets that you have to monitor. There is the in-market competitors that you have to monitor. You have to see who is doing what in your market. And when we ask both the ownerships, operations, vendors, whoever is responsible for this, whether it's an internal team or whether it's an external third party, as we go through this process of discovery of what's going on, there's no fresh answers. There's no new news. What we usually hear is what was last looked at in a SWOT analysis. Well, you know, they're a larger hotel. They have more conference space than we do. They tend to focus on airport traffic more than we do. Very old, static stuff. What I'm talking about is more in line with what do you know now about them? On our podcast, we've talked always about tools and functionalities and so forth. And we discussed tools that were related to creating scraping which is monitoring of pages where you can look and take the pages off, or the information off. And you can set up tracking to watch your competitors' specials pages, for instance, to see if, and this is a daily routine that marketers can do, you just tap it, open it, it pings it, refreshes it, and you can see what your competitors, who you've chosen to be your competitors, which are not always are your star report competitors, by the way, or your lighthouse competitors. Those sometimes get chosen for different reasons, but get to see what they're offering. And a lot of times, doing this for our own clients, we look and say, why are they offering that? Or, you know what, they just changed that offer, or that's a new offer. In our analysis, why did they do it is the first question. Should we do it is the second question. And from there, we keep a balance of power, so to speak. Why are they offering a culinary offer, a restaurant discovery tour package, or restaurant tour package where since they're, and we might look at it and know about them compared to us, saying, well, we can't really offer a similar thing because we don't have the nexus of restaurants around us. So very smart of them to have done that, but we can't do the same thing. But inspirationally, is there something that we can do that's similar to that? Like maybe we're around retail, and maybe we can go to the retail outlets that are around us and say, hey, look, we know you guys offer the variations of values and so forth. Can you give us something to offer our guests as an incentive to stay with us and hence come to you, that we can give in part of, as a value add to a package, like a retail shop till you drop kind of thing, because you're next to a mall and you go around and you get all those various benefits that are in the mall collectively, put it together as a resource and add it as a part of a value add to a shop till you drop promotion. That may be in contrast to that hotel over there closer to restaurants doing a, pub crawl or something like that. You get the idea. That awareness of the specials that are being offered is current market analysis, current competitive comp set awareness. Other things that you need to do as a person for marketing is you need to be aware of what the competitors are doing in the social space. Not just as a one-time audit, look what they're doing compared to what you're doing, a slice of life static thing that says, okay, on this date when I pulled this report for my audit, they had these engagements up at these times with these kind of engagement levels between likes, shares, comments, so forth. This is their frequency. This is when they tend to post. That's an audit result. They're incredibly valuable, not what we're necessarily talking about. This is a sit on it like an egg review. You have a routine weekly to see what your competitors are doing and engaging, because one day they may have been doing the same thing for 3 weeks, and then the next 3 to 5 days they are on fire with postings and events and content and so forth. And in the timeline of engagements, they might have known that that was a good time to put that kind of content out because they were getting the attention of audiences about those events or the destination information that was now being searched for, and they wanted that content in front of people to be discovered. You may have been late to that dialogue. By the same token, you might have your own schedule and you might see that you're doing all this great content posting in preparation for the awareness of what people are going to be looking for. And your comp set is asleep at the wheel. They don't realize that they should be putting their content out like you are. And you now have a thing to come back to them and say, hey, look, guys, it looks like we got ahead of our comp set and make in the event awareness of what's going on. We got that content we've been talking about that we had programmed to do. We reviewed it with everybody. We showed everybody the pictures and the content we were writing for. Everybody liked it. We told them we were going to be scheduled this week. It went out. Guess what? Everybody's asleep at the wheel. They didn't see that we did this, so we're first to the gate. So that traffic can be monitored. We can create audience creations from that. We can see if we can retarget more people with that. We'll go into our workflow funnel with whether we shift it to another channel, all the things we talk about on the show as to what you do with that. That awareness of what your competitors are doing in social allows you to do that. By the same way, if you see them doing something, you're saying, wait, we're not doing that. Why are they doing that? See what their engagements are. See what they're posting about and go, oh, crap. We didn't really think about that. Or, you know what, that can't apply to us. That's just too specific to their property that we wouldn't be able to derive a value from that unless there's enough compression that we can get some of the bleed over of demand simply because they don't have enough rooms to sell. That's a choice that combination of revenue management, operations, sales, marketing talk about in the process of comparing what is being done by their comp set compared to what you're doing by your comp set. So, other things to consider. Always a vigilance on ad campaigns. Keeping track of what your competitors are advertising, not just we talk about monitoring specials and so forth, but this is seeing what they're doing in ads. Are they boosting their budgets? Are they boosting their ad frequencies? Have they diversified their ads? Have they changed their ads? Did they put different content in their ads? Are they getting good with their content development in their ads? Are they putting video ads out and your video ads are stale and old compared to theirs being fresh and new? They have no video ads and you do have video ads. Good to know. This awareness of your comp set, progressive marketing strategy, is critical to know whether or not you're ahead or behind in what others in your market that you're competing with are doing to get the eyeballs to them versus you. Sitting in meetings, I can't tell you how valuable it is to be able to refer to things that you're doing that you don't see your comp set reflecting on. Successes of what you're doing is the next part. And because it's just not that we're doing it and I have no production for you, but not only are we doing it and they're not, we're producing from it. It's a great Tarzan beat your chest thing because you feel good that you're contributing to the overall KPI generation of what's been targeted. This is our top line revenue goal for this month, or this is how many people we need to get into our traffic flow for all of the expanded channels that we want to grow. Whatever that is, that helpfulness of being able to know how you compare to your comp set. Because strangely enough, and we've talked about this many times, at the C level or the exec level, 3 persistent questions always get asked around any initiative. How much is it going to cost? How much is it going to make us from what we cost? And who else is doing it? That applies to this. If you can go into a conversation and say that we created a campaign about these things and we launched it, our comp set hasn't, we're seeing this engagement and this value from the engagement, then that means you're doing a good job. A lot different than our comp set is doing this. From what we can see from the engagement levels, they're getting production out of this, and we have nothing in contrast to that. Bad conversation. Lesson to learn from it, we all get caught like, well, wait a minute, where'd that come from? We're competing with people that are as good and sometimes better than us, and we're catching up to them. Whatever it is, we have to always be aware of what they're doing. The only way we can improve ourselves is by seeing what others around us are doing. Whether we're at the pace or they're the ones creating the pace, we have to know what our comp set is doing. Social, post-engagement monitoring, ad campaign monitoring, offers monitoring, which goes to content changes. Keeping an eye on the websites of our competitors. Did they add a whole mess of content and their things to do? Did they add new unique pages to particular events? Do they connect up with another group that will actually sell tickets on stuff or offer guides and maps or videos or rich media or just more content? Did they update their pages? Did they update their rich imagery, their media? When that happens, were you already doing it? Or did you do it before them? Or are you now behind the 8 ball trying to catch up with them? Like, if they did that, that's going to get a whole new refresh, a new re-indexing. Google's going to recrawl them. It's going to improve the authenticity if they did it well. It's going to move you down if you're trying to share the same space as them. So you need to quickly understand that if that happened, what can you do to mitigate any sort of negative damage to your traffic and authenticity? That awareness of their content of their sites is critically important. Another thing to consider, how are they viewed? Do you look at their reviews? Do you see what people are saying about them? I've run tremendously excellent campaigns where I've literally poached people that were very unhappy with my competitors. And I simply geo-targeted people that were being keyworded in as to, unhappy, bad, cold water, dirty, whatever the variations of keywords that we'd have. And we had it geoed in the area, geofenced in the area, that any of those keywords that came up, we would trigger an ad campaign saying, we'll give you simply a checkout and we'll give you a guaranteed 15% off our best available rate. You could check in tonight. Now, obviously, you're not going to do that on sold out things and stuff like this. You don't need to promo your way away from it, but this was really helpful around airports, especially helpful around canceled flights, bad weather, so forth and so on. I think I've told the story many times where we were opening a new airport hotel and we were the 5th airport hotel. So we were the new one. Nobody knew we existed. And, business travelers and so forth, they know where they stay, how they stay. They got their routines down. And so cracking into that market is a very hard and lengthy process unless we short circuit it, which is what we did, where we basically geo-targeted any time in the airport there was a canceled flight, bad weather, poor conditions, late shuttle, no shuttle, where do I go, whatever, looking for rooms. And we'd say, we'll give you 15% off our best available rate. Go to gate 5, look for our shuttle, hop on, show them that you got this ad or this post. We'll bring you right back to our hotel, check you right into a nice, warm, clean, brand new room. And our competitors were wondering why, because they're also at the same gate, because that's where all the hotel shuttles pick everybody up. Why all these people were piling out and standing in line to get into a shuttle for the new hotel when they're sitting there going, we're the place that people always go to. Why are they not? And the shuttle driver's not going to know what to do. They're just standing there waiting for people to get on their shuttle, and everybody's going to another shuttle. So you can do things like this, is what I'm saying. And you can do this because of the awareness capabilities of monitoring what's being said about your competitors. That expands into public relations. Now, we've seen blissfully the lowering of the fervor around influencers and people that have all these followings that they supposedly influence on and talk to and so forth. It doesn't take it away. What it has done is it's crucibled out, burned away all of the people that don't do well or tried to do it but didn't do things and asked for too much and didn't deliver as much as they should have, and all the people that just like give me everything for free and I'll write about you, no guarantees of what that's going to produce, into a more viable business relationship. We had several shows now over the course of a couple of years ago talking about how to negotiate contracts with influencers, how to choose influencers, how to vet influencers, and so forth. And it's gotten only better since then. So going through the process of who do you use to create the collaborations of awareness about you is much more of a reasonably good exercise. The realities have set in that it's not 7-figure income people and give the world for free to get them to do anything. It's more of a, you have to produce real live engagements. You have to have a real live engaged audience. There's cost values to this. We have some influence on what the things we want you to highlight. Should you be talking about them? We're not trying to bias exactly what you say, but we want to make sure that you point out the things we want to get brought into your presentation of who we are. Those things now really happen. In addition to that is getting into the regular mainstream news feeds, the local coverage of news. How do you get to a TV station to be shown in that TV station? How do you get into newspapers and magazines? Our podcast today, we'll be talking about a really cool tool that gets you into how to get into dialoguing with real journalists and how to present what you would like to present to them. And it's not just a PR boilerplate. Anybody can do distribution. You get a PR wire and all the rest of these, pay your $700 or $900 minimum, $1,100 minimum, and get out into a PR piece that gets into just the main machine. Here we are. Welcome. We just did a renovation. It's so pretty. Look at our cute pictures. We're an innovative company. We're going to continue to grow, buy a bunch of hotels. That boilerplate stuff that goes out, we're not talking about that. We're talking about getting engaged with journalists who make a living doing what they do for either a news agency or they're contracted to, and purchased from as a news agency, their content that they develop. Travel writers, travel news people, people that cover the industry, cover geographies, where you're giving them helpful information because they're always in hunting of writing stuff because that's how they get paid. And you're literally providing them things to say, hey, look, I hope this is of interest. This is what we're doing. This is why we think it's interesting for you. This is what we think would be interesting to consider, so forth. And in turn, they'll take that and they will maybe write an article for you, or they may make a coverage broadcast, or they may use you as an expert reference of something and you get on the news because of who you are. Those things are PR, public relations, and they're gold because people see it not in the light of an advertisement, but in the light of awareness. And that means that there's more receptive idea of what's being said rather than and we're waiting for the pitch. There it is. That good stuff. The other to consider in your Compset awareness, who's getting the awards? Who's getting the local awards for best workspace, best hospitality, best chamber member, most active in a supporting community, like, community role stuff? How much coverage do you get on making the things that make you a part of your community? How charitable are you? How engaged with your team are you? Those awards that get tossed around, the things that you're able to point to and say, we really are trying to be good stewards of our community, those things. Or we're trying to be great in our industry awards. We're trying to be great in service awards. Those things draw attention that when you're being compared to your comp set, Here you are with all these accolades, recent being better, and your comp doesn't seem to have as many, if any. So obviously, I'm going to be like, well, these guys are really showing up. Those guys may be as good as them, but they don't seem to really be showing up that much. Now, I'm not into a glory thing where you want all these things and awards that nobody can recognize. A lot of them, most people don't, but they can understand some of them. And, it's like you ever go into somebody's office and there's a framed plaque and it's the best, whatever the company's internal promotion program is, best think leader or whatever. And you're wondering, well, how did you earn that? It's great that you got it. Don't know what it's for, but it's nice that you have those things. That value right there is just enough. It doesn't mean you have to understand what it means. It just means you received it. Now, obviously, bogus ones, just the reverse effect. Like, I don't think that's a real thing. So you're making it look like you got awards that you don't have. Just the contrary. Now all of a sudden there's a distrust as to whether or not you're trying to be something that you're not. What else is wrong? Awards are valuable for initial impression. Awards are valuable for critical decision. That's the value piece. Um, that's pretty much the generalization that I have for Compset awareness. Uh, like I said, Compset awareness, I see it consistently where it's more driven by revenue management as to here's the rates that are being offered by our Compset. Here's their relative occupancies based on our reporting processes, Star Report, Lighthouse, whatever have you. Um, that's again not all there is to Compset analysis. It's valuable for revenue management, obviously, placement, rate leadership, tier level, value proposition, um, reflection of the integrity of the market as to rate integrity for whether or not they feel that they can hold the rate based on the demand that everybody believes is there, or whether you got bottom dwellers that are dropping because they realize there's probably less demand than everybody's anticipating, and they're going to grab whatever they can by low rating everybody else and just pick up the demand as it exists, and you go into this free fall. So rate comp set a daily, weekly routine, absolutely critical. Add to it market comp set analysis as frequent. Look at your competitors' special offers. Look at your competitors' social engagement. Look at your competitors' ad campaigns, both in veracity and potential expenditures. Look at the content changes that your comp set is doing. Look at the PR pieces that they're engaged with and actively pursuing. Look at the awards that they're getting. And I meant to mention, my apologies for not expanding on this on PR pieces. Look at the reviews. Critical piece. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make in my show notes that it has to be separated. Because reviews are a critical template to people's perception of the product. And so if a company has poor reviews, no matter how well they try to present themselves, the reviews are a dark mirror for them. It's the Dorian Gray, picture in the attic that you don't want to see, where reviews are like they said it's this, but it's actually this, or they tout that it's this, but it's this. The reviews degrade everything else we're talking about. So look at the reviews of your comp set. See how they're doing. Obviously, hotels that have yet to go into renovation or in need of renovations, see whether the reviews are saying, it's tired but kept clean, or it's really needing renovation, don't stay here until it's done. Two different perspectives to that. That sentiment, there's apps that will actually track sentiment. You can monitor it. You don't have to go and spend extra time reading other hotels' reviews. There's platforms, and we've had them on the podcast talk about platforms that will go and review your sentiments. You just simply indicate where they got to go look. And they'll look at the sentiments on a variety of platforms, the TripAdvisors, the Expedias, and everything. And it'll go over and tell you that this hotel, this is their rankings. Here's the sentiment scores. It's like a little meter. And it's neutral, negative, positive, gives examples, shows you persistency. Like, geez, these bathrooms never seem to get clean because everybody complains about them. Or, gee, these air conditioners don't seem to work because everybody complains about them. Those sentiments allow you to create content that may be reflective of, hey, stay in a place that's reliable and cool, or reliable and hot, whatever, right now, especially in the US, reliable and cool. That kind of review sentiment of your comp set is critical to know whether or not you have to change your content, the context of how you're offering, and maybe keywords selective to people that are concerned about things like that, especially with health needs, where they need a portable refrigerator for medication, the special needs travelers that we have. By the way, as a footnote for for the Myrtle Beach CVB chamber, look at their video that is now out called "Traveling the Spectrum." Absolutely phenomenal product. Mr. Stuart Butler did a great job with his team on getting that produced, and it's going to go nationally real soon. But amazing show. Um, Anyways, so again, to recap all of those things: specials offerings from your Compset, social post engagements from your Compset, ad campaigns and veracity from your Compset, PR pieces from your Compset, reviews from your Compset, awards from your Compset, content changes of your Compset, and of course the venerable SWOT analysis, perpetuation, or evaluation as to if anything changed, including additional competitors in your market. A new hotel opens up, let's say, or a hotel closes partially because of renovation. That awareness is a SWOT analysis. So there you have it. Compset awareness is more than rate checks. So with that, my name is Loren Gray. Thank you for the privilege of your time. If you're going to the conferences next week in Charlotte, enjoy yourself. We will be debriefing a lot of things that are on there via my friends and partners that are attending on next week's show. And until then, thank you for the privilege of your time again.